Good morning, everyone. Today we're talking about silencing the voices in our head. If you don't always have a big cheerleader in your mind, stay tuned. We'll tell you how to get rid of it.
Welcome to Coffee with the Queens, empowering you to grow and protect your cash credit castle and kingdom. Have you ever heard the phrase, get your ducks in a row, and you feel like you haven't done that? We share learned lessons and practical advice to help guide you to a life of financial freedom. Empowerment is key, so grab your coffee and crown and let's get to it. Take it away, Queen Tammy.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Bring up my coffee.
Guess what? Today, for the theme of the show, I have a new one. It says, actually, I can.
I like it.
Right?
And you did. So we have an audience today.
Yes. I love that. We have a couple seated behind you. Yes. So that's lovely. Do we want to know how they ended up there?
It's a long story. We would actually need a whole nother show for that, but they're here.
So that is our in-studio audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can defer to them whenever we have some questions or need some applause. They applaud very quietly though, because they're holding their coffee cups.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely hard to applaud with the coffee.
Hard.
Oh, gosh.
So speaking of coffee cups, in the theme of the day, actually I can.
Yes.
So how do we keep that theme going on in our heads? More of us, more than ever, are working from home. That means you have to empower yourself. You have to motivate yourself. And sometimes it's hard when you have a little voice in your head that keeps saying negative things to you all day. So my question to you, my fellow entrepreneur lady queens, is what happens when you feel like that voice is getting a little bit too loud? What do you do to squash that voice in your head and keep motivated?
Yeah, it's not easy to nip it in the bud. Well, being a solopreneur, it's very challenging, right? And you're wearing so many hats, but you just have to know you have to persevere. What I do is I get up in the morning and I know that I just have to get things done. And when I stop pouting, I finally jump into my studio and I just do it. And after I do the things that I really need to do, it feels like a great sense of accomplishment, just getting finished and being done with it. And I feel good and it makes me want to do even more. So that's what I do. I'm a go-getter. I've always been a go-getter. And I could literally sit in front of my computer like 24/7 pretty much. I mean, really, I'm in here like 14 hours a day, but I love working on the computer. It's my passion. I love dancing. I love doing so much, but I get it done. Nobody else is going to do it but yourself, especially if you're a solopreneur.
True.
Kathy,
Well, so before we had coronavirus, I would say mine was tennis. And, I have loved tennis all of my life. And I played tennis at least 4 times a week. And, when you play tennis, those little endorphins come into your body, those happy hormones. And I swear to God, I always said, who am I going to hit today? Boom. And there went all the negative self-doubt. And to me, that was get my happy hormones. And then here came coronavirus, and all of a sudden, I haven't played tennis since last February. So,
has it affected you? Have you had trouble staying positive?
You know how I did it? I joined these groups. So I was really fortunate that last February, right before coronavirus hit, I went to the 10X Growth Conference in Las Vegas, and I met these amazing women besides you guys. And I joined this little mastermind group that's starting in March. Every day at noon, 25 of us showed up. And so I find my best motivation is to find other motivational entrepreneurs. I hear Tammy say this. Like I talked to my good friend the other day. She says, well, what have you been doing? And I told her first question is, well, are you making any money? It's like, if you're not talking to people like us, they have no clue what we do. So
Yes.
I try to stay in my entrepreneurial lane, and then I try to stay in my other lane. And hopefully the two meet. That's me.
That's awesome. I can hop on that. I would say for sure, 100%. is surrounding yourself with motivational messages. So if the groups are huge, right? So we belong to all these entrepreneurial groups and communities. Right now, we haven't been able to network. Everything went off, online instead of off-site. We used to be able to meet up once or twice a month with our friends all over to talk with like-minded people and keep us motivated. And you come off one of those conferences and you are just high and, really, really on cloud nine for a couple of months to keep you going. And without that, it's been a thing. There's been a void, but thank goodness we're in a wonderful age of the online connectivity. And so I do that. I seek to someone that I know, either a podcast or a media or a group or whatever, that will just, I can relate to and make me just bring me right back. And I also have positive messages in the morning, and I have a checklist, and I feel good when I get part of that checklist done. So I try to knock some of that out in the morning, and then I can't feel bad about myself, right? Because I accomplished something. How about you?
That's awesome. This is a big part of what I do when I'm working with people, because self-doubt is the one thing that I think that I am here to help people battle. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, how advanced in your career or your business you are, how much education or what, self-doubt creeps in it's just a human thing. And that is where that negative self-talk comes from. It's very much related to that self-doubt, and it can be paralyzing. It can keep you from making the changes in your life that you need to make in order to really step into who you're supposed to be, into your design, into your purpose. And so one of the latest things that I've discovered, and believe me, this is my thing because it was my thing. You know what I mean? Like, I battled voices in my head that were not just like talking to me negatively. It was a chorus of them screaming. And so I had to squelch them all. And lately, I think one of the things that I've learned in the past couple of years is the power of language, and not just the language that you're giving yourself, because that comes from being aware of the language that you are using, the language you're surrounded with. Now, in the beginning, it comes from our environment we were raised in. So we don't really have control over that. And we usually adopt the language that has been around us, whether it's victimizing language or empowering language. And I've spoken to a few people just recently that said they have a rule in their home that their children can't say the word can't. It's absolutely considered a swear word. And Tammy, I think you said you had a can't jar, like a swear word jar that you couldn't say it. I think that's you can say, yeah. And I love that. I think it's incredibly powerful. But so many adults hold themselves with their own language in a space of victimizing framework, and they don't even know. Like, it's not even in their awareness, I should say. And so by becoming really aware of the language that we use, it helps us to be more intentional, and therefore it helps things move faster. It actually helps to create that flow without so many things stopping us up. And that's what that self-doubt does. It stops us. It can be just paralyzing, And it's interesting because I use the word stop. And our guest today is all about being unstoppable. So I think we should bring her on. Are we ready?
Yes.
Awesome. So our guest today is an absolutely incredible woman. She's a confidence coach and international best-selling author. She is absolutely unstoppable. Through the power of motivation, education, and empowerment, she was actually able to turn her life from feeling like a victim to a business owner that has seen her companies take off like she never imagined. She is a television show host, and we're going to talk to her about this. She's actually starting her own network. So imagine that. She is inspiring people all the way. Everybody, let's bring on Mel Andre.
Good morning, Mel.
There she is.
Good morning.
I am so excited to be here today.
Oh, good. We love that.
We need to get you a crown.
I know. I wish I had a crown. I was like, I'm going to go coffee with the queen today. I'm really excited. I do tune in and watch you guys. And then I was like, I don't have a crown. I'm not going to fit in today. So.
No, that's all right. Our whole theme is like t-shirts and tiaras, right? So, so going through life with the ease of wearing a t-shirt and having the attitude of always being a queen. So
exactly.
You just have to have the attitude now.
But you know what? I do fit in slightly because I do have the coffee. I do have
okay. It's labeled coffee.
Right. Good.
Love it.
That's
Love
fantastic.
it.
So, we talk about you being unstoppable. Have you always had that quality? Have you always been like that since you were a kid?
So I will say when I was a kid, I was unstoppable. I could do everything. And it gave me the sense of cockiness. Everyone loved to be around me, but I was slightly cocky. And then I went through these series of unfortunate events, and it completely knocked me off my horse. I mean, when you're cocky, you don't really build a strong foundation. So when something bad happens, you just get knocked over. When you're truly confident, you have a strong foundation, and even if things start knocking you over, you can bounce back. And I was in a horrible place. I was extremely depressed. I was suffering from anxiety, two things that I had never experienced in my entire life. And in my adulthood, I was experiencing these crazy things, and I was having horrible thoughts, and I had to rebuild my mentality and really have that confidence mentality and that winner's mentality in order to get back up on that horse and be the successful person that I knew that I could be. But
what was the turning point for you, though, Mel? I mean, how did you go from feeling like that victim to one? What was the moment that you said, I know what to do, I have to do something, and I know what to do, even if it was just a clumsy first step forward? What was that?
I was going to lose everything. I was literally going to lose everything. I had worked so hard to build the things in my life, and I was extremely successful. And before this whole year of hell happened, I won't go too much into the year of hell, but I had an entire year where every couple of weeks, something horrible would happen to me, from car accidents to falling down a manhole. It was just crazy.
Oh my God.
So I was walking my dogs, and
we're laughing. It's not funny, but it's
funny now. It's funny now. That's the thing. Like when it happened, it wasn't, but now it's funny. It's like, gosh, man, like how do you fall down a manhole? So I had this great loft in the middle of Washington, D.C., and like I'm going through this year of hell, and I'm walking, and I'm like having all these negative self-talks, right? When you're negative, when you have that negative mentality, all you're doing is bringing more negativity.
Yes.
So I'm walking my dogs, and I'm in this, and I'm with my grandmother was staying with me for a little bit, and I'm walking my dogs. My head's all like, oh, you suck, and all that. And I'm walking, and the place that I walk, I'm in the grass. I want to let you guys know that I fell down a manhole in the grass. Not even like on the street. And I'm just walking.
The metaphor of actually falling into a manhole.
Falling down into a manhole. And I'm gonna tell you why it's funny. So I go and I step where I walk the dogs every single day. This is not a new area. I walk the dogs every single day. But to hit rock bottom, you gotta hit rock bottom. I think a manhole is rock bottom. And when they did some kind of like work, they didn't cover the manhole completely. And I fell. And the funny thing is, I caught myself because one of my companies is a fitness company, and I caught myself and pulled myself up, but I never let go of the leash to my pit bull. So I had like the leash like wrapped around, and she just sat and was just like waiting for me to pull myself up from the manhole. And I just thought that was like the funniest thing.
She could have helped you. She could have helped you because they're strong.
She would have ran, but she would have ran. It just would have like tied around my hand, and like the best thing she could do was just sit and wait. And she's a very hyper dog, and she never just sits and waits. So and like I turned around, and my grandmother's like this, frozen. She couldn't help me either because she was just frozen. She was like, you thought I was dead. She was just like fell down a manhole. But that wasn't even the point where I was like, oh, I gotta change. That was more a woe is me type of energy. I was like, oh my God, my entire life sucks. How do I fall down a manhole?
So it's not like losing your high heel as you're walking down this. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah.
Just slightly different.
But that wasn't the moment. That wasn't the moment.
No,
is what you said. Like, there was more. That wasn't enough.
More. I mean, oh my gosh, more things. Just every 2 to 3 weeks, something horrific would happen, and finally, I was about to lose everything. I was about to lose everything. I was about to lose my company. I lost a relationship. I was literally about to lose everything in my life, and I was like, nope. I worked too hard, and I snapped into it. And I started examining what was different in my life now versus when I was extremely successful a year ago. And I realized it was the thoughts in my head. I was a miserable person in my head. And the things that I was saying to myself, I would never dare say it to another human being. So why was I saying it to myself? And it was just that moment that I'm going to admit something to you guys I never really admitted before. I mean, like when I was on the top of my game, I was on the top of my game, and everything came crashing down all at once. I mean, all at once. It was like Black Monday for me, but it's like I own Black Monday. But my electricity was cut. My electricity was cut. Like, I am like this serial entrepreneur, and my electricity was cut, and I was about to lose everything. I was like, nope, I got to make this change, and I made the change.
So that was our exclusive. She's never said that before. So we have an exclusive, y'all.
Yay!
There you go. There you go.
Just a little nugget about Mel.
Coffee with the queens.
Just for us. Just for us.
Now you're saying that, you know, you needed to stay motivated. You needed to figure out how to do that. Now, how did you actually stay focused to stay motivated, especially when that motivation is gone?
So I'm going to say right now, and this is going to sound so simplistic because it can't be that simple. And I want the starting point can be so simple. It's going to be a journey, and you just have to surrender and do the journey. But the first thing was I had to change to a positive mindset. And what I did was positive affirmations. And I know people look at me sometimes like, no, positive affirmations aren't going to completely change my life. It completely changed my life, because when you're in that negative mindset, you have negative blinders on. So you know how you have like the horse blinders, you have those how horses have blinders, they can only see one thing. Essentially, you want to see the positive, but when you're in that negative mindset, you have the blinders on, and all you can see is negativity. And when you knock those blinders off, you can see all the positive things around you. And the way that I stepped into that positivity was through positive affirmations. Now, positive affirmations aren't going to happen overnight. So I tell people to make a list of positive things. And they have to be in the present. They can't be in the future. It can't be future tense, can't be past tense. It has to be in the present. And I'll tell you the one that got me through everything. And it's so simple. It's like, Mel, you're amazing. And
wow.
that was the one that just, I had other ones, but just the Mel, you're amazing was the one that really stuck out for me. Because no matter what happened, I just had to keep telling myself that was amazing. That was great. And I tell people to have a list. Make a list of positive affirmations, whether it's on your phone, whether it's in your wallet, in your purse, have that list. And the moment that you have a negative thought about yourself, pull that list out. Pull that list out. If you make a mistake, and I mean, when you're in that negative mind frame, when you drop your coffee, you're like, oh, you're so stupid. How can you drop the coffee? But if you're in a winning mindset, a positive mindset, you're like, oh, it's a mistake. Let me clean this up. I'm kind of clumsy today. So right. Even when I would drop a cup of coffee, I'm like, Mel, you're amazing. And it was just switching. So I wasn't constantly putting myself down. So I wasn't constantly putting myself in a worse mood. So it wasn't just like, drop the coffee, and then I'm going to pile all this stuff above me. So it keeps pushing me down and down. Because I didn't want to be back in that manhole.
That's negative anchors, right? Yeah, they call those anchors. They call those anchors. We have negative and we have positive. So when you were going like this, like anchors, and I'm thinking anchors hold you down, right? So the more negative ones you have, the deeper in the manhole you're going.
Exactly.
And where were you last weekend? So Angel was painting the top of the RV. We were sealing the RV. And I'm sitting here. He says, well, hold the paint pail. And I'm holding it because he's on a ladder. And so he says, here, hold this. And I grab it, and I have something else in my other hand. I think it's a wrench or something. I don't know. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to put the paint can on the ground because it's going to get dirty on the bottom. Stupid me. So I'm trying to hold it and push it and putting it on my knee, and it spills.
Oh, no.
And of course, it's like,
exactly.
And so you're so amazing last week.
You're amazing
this week. And he says, see what happens when you're not focused? He says, I need a better helper. I said, oh man, but I was trying not to get the can dirty. So it was my fault. And I owned it. But yeah, you're right, because it will change the way you think at that particular moment. I wish I had that last week. I needed it.
I want to hop on something. You said something. So Mel, you've written books, and I've read one of them called Thoughts, which is talking about getting those negative thoughts out of your head. And there it is.
I'm actually in this book too.
Yes, Unstoppable. Yes, they're awesome.
I'm in this book. I'm so excited.
One of the things you mentioned in there is the language, kind of what Sandra was saying about the words that are used. And there's a chapter in there that talks about, instead of saying something is my fault, it's I'm going to take responsibility for it, because fault implies, negativity. So I'm going to be responsible for that. So Sahela, I think you meant to say, you take responsibility for making the paint spill.
I did.
You're all
I
good.
did. It was full responsibility. I did it. I didn't want to get the bottom dirty.
Well, instead you decorated the ground.
There
I
we are.
did. I did.
This is really more beautiful.
Wait.
And so I was reading too what you're doing, and I would be interested to know how you're going to take this amazing message to this thing called Roku. And for those of us who might be listening, what is Roku, and what is it that made you think that this would be a way to build your business, grow your audience? If you can maybe enlighten us. Thanks.
So the way that I got a TV show was someone messaged me and asked me if I wanted a TV show. I'm not gonna lie, this wasn't even me. So I originally come from the East Coast, right, and I made my way over to Cal. I think I've been here like 2.5 years now, so a very short time. So I think everyone thought I came over here to like be on TV because a couple months after being in California, I got a TV show on Roku. So Roku is basically it's a service that you can watch TV. So Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV, they're all kind of services where you can put things on and you can download apps on them. So you have Netflix, you can watch Hulu, you can watch Easy Way. Download Easy Way, that's one of the channels that I'm on. So and all these other things. So I'm going to be very honest. I started doing live broadcast. And I feel like I started doing live broadcast before live broadcasts were really popular. So before like everyone really was doing it, I would just go hiking. I would literally go hiking, get to the top of a mountain and be like, hey guys, and like give some kind of positive message. And I got a message from a producer and she was like, hey, we're looking to put some TV shows on this new network. And you seem very comfortable in front of a camera. I've been following what you were doing. Do you want to talk about possibly having a TV show? And it didn't really click for me. So I was like, oh yeah, I would love to be on TV. I love talking. I didn't realize until the meeting, because I would have prepped completely differently for this meeting. I didn't realize until the meeting that she wasn't asking me to be on her show. She was asking me if I wanted a show.
A show.
So like,
well, you're in the meeting and you go, oh, wait.
So I don't think she ever realized that I didn't know because I'm pretty good on my feet. So that's
the second thing you've not disclosed on our show.
I have two things. I was like, yes, I'm on my own TV, and I had to come up with like something really quickly to like pitch. Thank God I'm good on my feet. And then we came up with the Mel show, which is the show about empowerment. And we have guests coming on, and season 2 is actually going to, I think, starting next month. Mm-hmm. And we just have guests come on, and we really talk about empowering people. So the focus of the show is motivating, educating, empowering people to be their best self, which is like what a lot of my speeches are about. Yeah. We brought it to a different platform. Now, Sohaila and her lovely studio is where we film all the TV shows. So I love Sohaila's studio. We do so much there. So just want to say, if you're looking to rent out a TV studio or any other kind of studio, go ahead and contact Sohaila if you're in the Escondido or Southern California area. So that little disclaimer. So since we're on Coffee of the Queens, I'll say this: I am the queen of plugs. Like I will plug everyone I know in like during my
nice.
You know what I love about her shows is she has real people, and I mean people that really have taken it up a notch. She talks with judges, she interviews detectives, private investigators, she interviews celebrities. I mean, they're big heavy hitters.
So my favorite interview, and that was actually for my other show, Live with Mel, which is streaming, but for the Secret Service, my favorite interview was the Secret Service. I was covering the George Floyd riots.
Yes.
Because I have the other show, Live with Mel, where it's basically a news show. So more like a CNN, Fox type of show where it's opinion based, but it's also bringing the news. But we want to hear your opinion because your opinion matters. So check us out every single Monday through Thursday, 9:30. Anyway,
okay.
But I was covering the George Floyd riot for my show for that one, and that's not the one on Roku. And somehow I ended up right in front of the White House, and I had the opportunity to interview Secret Service during the riots live there on the front lines. I think that was one of the best interviews I did because it was just raw. It was just raw emotion. So.
And they were willing to speak to you at that time. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
They'd be like, I'm sorry, we're busy.
We're busy.
Got a little thing going on.
Get our hands full.
But I'll tell you this. At that moment, that area was the calmest area in front of the White House because Secret Service was like, listen, we're just like you. We want to talk. We don't want to see bad things happen. And there was an open conversation about it. And that was the calmest area out of the entire fence around the White House.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's cool.
It's amazing. Thank you, Mel, for being on. We're enjoying this. I just want to remind people to comment because we always have giveaways here at the end and coming up. So the more you engage, the more chances you have to win our amazing giveaways. So
And
please.
also, if this topic is timely for you or you think it might help somebody, please share this. Even if you're watching this after we're live and you're watching this after the fact, please just share this with somebody. Like the channel, like us, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff so we can maybe bring more awesome people like Mel or even Mel herself back on again.
Yes, yes. Now, Mel, you have more strategies, right? That you help people with, like the motivation part or pivoting, especially in the pandemic this whole year. People had to pivot. So what do you say to people who are still on that fence saying, okay, I'm trying to pivot, I'm doing my best to pivot, and it's still not working? What could they do?
Sure. So again, this is going to sound very simple. This is something that a lot of people talk about. A lot of coaches talk about, but I like to say this one over and over and over again, and then add a little bit of spice to it, is visualization. Now, if you don't know what visualization is, it's basically seeing yourself where you want to be. And I think visualization is such an important tool because I think when we are constantly trying, we lose focus of where we actually want to be. And I think the pandemic was a big example of that because when the pandemic hit, when people had lost their jobs, when people were in situations where if they were self-employed, they saw money not coming in anymore because there was no place to work because the entire globe shut down and they lost sight of the big picture. And I know it can be hard to lose sight of that big picture of where you want to see when everything around you is going wrong. But visualization is definitely a tool to put you back on track. And I'll talk about it in a way where I had this one guy, he hates going to places like, oh, I don't want to hear about all that flu stuff. I want to hear about like hard facts. But I think with visualization, whether you look at it and you think it's the flu stuff or you think it's like hard facts that are going to get you there, I think visualization is a tool to get you there because you clearly see what you want. And if you use visualization as a goal setting tool, it helps make things clear for you. Now, when I say visualization, not everyone's going to close their eyes and go, I see myself as a millionaire driving a Lamborghini type of thing. Some people need a vision board. Some people need to record themselves because they're auditory and then play it back. Some people just need to close their eyes and see it. And some people need to grab the steering wheel of their Toyota and be like, this is a Lamborghini type of thing. So visualization looks different for everyone around you. Now, with visualization,
Bill, I have to just interrupt for a quick second because what I love is what you inadvertently just did was point out the fact that it's submersion. It's not just visualization. You know, it's a great idea to sit there and think of all the senses of what it feels like to drive that Lamborghini, hence holding on to the steering wheel and actually putting yourself in that space so that it's not just looking at a picture on your vision board. It's actually looking at the picture and putting yourself in it is kind of what you were describing, right?
Exactly. And I'll say something that I remember driving in DC. I lived in DC, New York, California. I've lived a lot of places. And I remember when, like maybe 2 or 3 months before I had my first $10,000 month, I remember sitting in the car and I'm holding the steering wheel and I was like, I make $10,000 a month. And I just kept repeating myself that. And I'm driving around DC and I'm seeing how my life would be different if I had that $10,000 a month. And sure enough, that put me in the energy of making my first $10,000 a month. And I was like, oh, that's easy. So it's, so it's putting yourself in that position because you don't only want to see it in your mind, but you want to feel it. You want to know it. You want to act like it's already happening. Now, I love visualization because it puts me in that energy. But if you're not an energy person, visualization still works for you. And I still tell you to do it because it can work as a goal setting because people need goals. You guys need the big goals and the little baby goals to get you there. So whether you think it's the flu stuff, because I really have a guy, I know this guy, and he's always like, I don't want to hear any more about the flu stuff. I want hard, concrete facts. And I will take everything that I hear on stage about maybe the law of attraction, and I'll tell him, like, listen, it's not flu. Let me show you how this is actually going to work for you with your hard, concrete steps. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. But once you start visualizing, the thing that I tell people next is let go of the obsession. You're visualizing it, you're feeling good. And then surrender to it. You have to surrender to it because You want to be in that position where you know it's going to happen and it's not a constant want. Because when it's a constant want, it's always one step away for you. So surrender and then enjoy the journey. I know the pandemic was hard for everybody, unless you're in real estate, then it was probably really good for you. But it was really, really hard for everyone. And when I was talking, I was like, listen, just take a step back. You have to deal with it here and now, but visualize where you see yourself a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. And put yourself in that mind frame. Deal with the fires that are in front of you, but know, and don't just think, know that better days are coming for you. And then people end up doing great things during the pandemic and starting new companies and finding solutions rather than focusing on, oh my gosh, I have no money. And I'm seeing the difference in the mentality of people who focused on finding solutions, whether it was starting a company and knowing that it's going to take some time to build, or changing things. So there was 2 types of entrepreneurs I saw during this pandemic. It was the, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And it was, and the other people were, how can I shift? And they visualized themselves being successful and they shifted their company.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this, I know Sohaila and I had a hard time putting together this show because Sohaila actually helped me direct and produce some of the episodes for the Mel show. We were set to air the Mel show right when the pandemic hit, and we had to push things back. And I had two decisions to make. Was I going to talk and like, oh my God, I had a TV show and I lost it and none of this is going to happen, I don't know. Or were we going to come together and find ways? And we were sending the videos back and forth to each other while I was stuck on the East Coast because I was visiting my parents right when everything shut down. And I was stuck there for months. And we were emailing things back and forth, editing, getting things ready. And we made the deadline to have the show go on.
Amazing.
Most networks and things shut down, but we kept the show. It was a brand new show. It was a brand new show that aired during the middle of a pandemic. And I don't think a lot of shows were brand new airing there. So visualization is great. So visualize, surrender, and then enjoy the journey. Something else that I see a lot of people doing. I mean, when you're in these situations, I know it's hard to enjoy the journey because you want it right now. And we live in the time of instant gratification. Right. And we want everything right now. We want those likes right now on social media for all my millennials and Gen Zs out there. We want the money right now. We want everything right now. And I think, so we were talking yesterday for the pre-production meeting with Angel. Angel's like, Mel, I'm seeing all these people, they start businesses and then you see the shift, they shift, and they're always doing something new. And it's because we want that instant gratification. We want to be successful right now. And being successful takes time. These overnight successes that you see were not overnight. They put in a lot of work.
That's the journey. That's the journey that you're talking about. Right, right.
And you just have to sit back and enjoy the journey and know the things that you learn along the way are going to help you when you are successful. Because a lot of times, if you take who you are now and who you're going to be when you're successful, if you didn't go through this journey, there's no way that you'd be able to navigate this when you're successful. There's a lot more things. So you have to sit back and enjoy the journey and know that it's going to take time. Companies like Nike didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took a long time for Nike to be profitable. They started off as Blue Ribbon and they were distributing other shoes. You know the shoes Asics?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Nike was distributing them. They didn't start off making shoes, but it took them a very long time. It took them a very long time to come into their own and be successful and then become $1 billion brand.
They've even talked about Amazon not being successful for years, if you can even imagine that they were in the negative for the first several years. And now look at them, right? But I mean, a couple of years. It's risk-taking. Risk-taking is what you have to consider.
One of my favorite stories, the guy who started FedEx, I can't remember his name, but but when he was out of money, literally had no money to pay anybody, what did he do? The risk taker, he flew to Las Vegas and bet, literally sat down at the gambling table and won enough money to pay the paychecks.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That's the story. That is.
We do not recommend that.
There's other ways. There's other ways to get capital, but
other ways, right?
I would say this when I play. I am a gambler. I must admit this. I'm a gambler, but I normally am a winning gambler because I never sit down without visualizing that I'm going to win. I never sit down at a gambling table without believing I'm going to win. And if you've ever played craps, they have people who say, "Oh, I'm going to bet on the dice to lose," or "I'm going to bet on the dice to win." I never sit at a table that not everybody's energy is saying that dice is going to win. That's me in my story.
And you're sticking to it.
And
that's how my mom was.
So after the pandemic, let's go to Vegas together.
but then
My
I
mom-
only get $5 at a time. So, that's my limited risk. But I do go in with the mentality that I'm going to sit down at this table and I'm going to win.
Well, that's what I have to tell my mom. She's probably watching. She's one of our greatest fans. But Mom, when you go to the casino, visualize yourself winning. Do it.
Hey, Mel, some of the stuff that you were talking about, and I know that, we even led into this talking about the difference between victim and then using the tools that you're talking about and actually overcoming that. But that said, tell me how gratitude shows up in your life, because that journey that you're talking about, when you look back at those worst things, including falling down the manhole, right? When you look back at that year, it's so hard when you're in the manhole, proverbially, to see the blessing in it. Mm-hmm. But do you find that after the fact, you can look back and go, wow, because that happened, I developed this character, which carried me through. Like, can you see those tie-ins now?
So I am so happy today's Thursday, because Thursdays are Thankful Thursdays. So I'm so grateful for Thankful Thursdays. I'll say that first. But gratitude is something that is so important. When you're in an attitude of gratitude, great things will come to you, because when you're thankful for what you already have, you're opening the door and telling the universe that you want more great things coming to you. And I know I'm a big believer in the law of attraction and things like that. But even looking back at the tragedies that happened in my life, I'll look back and be grateful for things. Like, for instance, I'm so grateful that I worked out so I can grab the rim of that manhole and pull myself up.
Yes.
Like little things like that. So when bad things happen, I'm grateful. I mean, I'll give you another example that people won't really hear sometimes. I am so grateful that my ex broke up with me years ago, because we are in both better places. And
yes.
So just looking back at things that could be hard things in your life, you can say, I'm grateful because without this, it wouldn't have led me to this. So I'm grateful for the great things that happened in my life. And I'm even grateful for the mistakes that I made in my life, because those mistakes allowed me to learn. And from those learning situations, it allowed me to be even more successful today. So I'm very grateful. And you just have to learn to be grateful every single day. I tell people, if you're not in the position where you can just say that I'm grateful, keep a gratitude journal. Grab a journal, yes. Just write down a couple of things that you're grateful for daily, and you'll see how much your life can change. Even in a global pandemic.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. I know people who are very much upset that they're on unemployment. They're like, I don't want to be a leech to the system, because they very much believe that unemployment was a leech to the system. That's how they viewed it. And yes. I tell them, I'm like, listen, unemployment saved your behind. I was going to say something else, but I'll say saved your behind. So be grateful for it. Like, be grateful for it. Like, I am so grateful that I have this safety net.
Yes.
Be grateful for even if it's not exactly what you want, be grateful for it. If you want a Mercedes, if you want an AMG, be grateful for your Civic. Like, be grateful that you have something that's driving you from point A to point B, and then put everything in place to make sure that you can drive that AMG. It's whatever you want. Just be grateful for things in the moment, because it opens up the path for more great things to come to you. Now, with that being said, being grateful for what you have is not an excuse to stay stuck where you are. No. Because sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm grateful for what I have, so I'm not going to do anything. And that's not either. You're going to say, I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm going to go after more. So if you want more, you have to actively go after more and know that you want more.
Which is what brings me to my final question with you. What is your big, audacious goal? Speaking of more.
So more right now, I actually have several big goals, but I'm really enjoying this TV thing, which I think you can appreciate with you being on TV. I'm really enjoying this TV thing, and I'm looking to expand and create shows and be a really successful executive producer at the end of the day, but also have my own show as well. But I want to give people an opportunity to have their voice heard. And then there's also some other businesses that I'm starting as well, and I have big goals for that.
Is this the network that we had referred to? Like, you're actually contemplating or beginning to set the foundation for a network so you can have other people's shows? Is that how it would be?
Yep. So that's how it is. I'm talking to several people about helping them create their own shows. Yes. I know people want to have their voice heard. People have stories that they want to tell, whether it's, hey, listen, I have a passion for cooking and I want you to watch, or listen, I have a passion for eating and I just want to eat at great restaurants all around the country. Can you film me doing it? Whatever your story is, I believe that people should have the opportunity to go ahead and do it. And I just want to help people do that. I'm also in the process of, this may be another exclusive. I'm also in the process of, I'm not going to say.
Lean in.
I know.
I'm in the process of looking at another country because we're looking to put retreats in that country. So there's a couple big goals that I have, and I'm just really, really excited. But at the end of the day, my biggest goal is I want to be in a position where I can help other people discover and show the world their dreams. And that's
Mel, I think you should have your own island. I think that would just solve it.
I agree. Yeah. Andre Island. Andre Island.
Put that on a vision board.
Has my name.
Yeah, you could do your retreats there. You could film there.
Film there, everything.
It's totally a tax write-off, right?
Oh,
That's right. There you go. Now, what's the new network name now that you got?
So it's going to be AIN Broadcasting, Andre International Network Broadcasting, because we're not just going to work in America. We're going to do international as well. Because I do have, interesting enough, I do have fans outside of the U.S., which I never thought that was going to happen. I remember when I put this book out, and I put this book out right along the time that I spoke at this international conference that was virtual. This was virtual before COVID. And I didn't realize that was going to get me international fans. And when I was looking at the breakdown of how this book was doing, because all my books are #1 bestsellers on Amazon, so check them out. As I was looking, I started seeing India, Brazil, Philippines. I was like, oh, Great Britain. Like I started seeing my books different places, and I was like, I have international fans. So I try and do things international as well. Even with Live with Mel, the show that I do, the live broadcasts I do on Facebook and YouTube and other places, and Twitter, I'll have people writing in from all over the globe. I mean, all over the globe in my inbox.
That's the great thing. There's no boundaries, right?
No boundaries.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things we didn't talk about, and I just forgot was the power of Roku in terms of reaching international. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, we have more people watching streaming TV than we do cable. And the reach internationally is huge. And I don't know whether you saw, Roku stock went up 10% today. Yep. 10% today. Wow.
It did.
Because the power of streaming and the power of reaching international audience is real. It's real. Mm-hmm. It's happening.
It is.
And I applaud you for taking your audience there, and I would love for you to have another show and help us show other people how to do this. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I definitely want to show people how to put their names out there. And I'll tell you this, if you're looking to be in any kind of entertainment, whether you're a singer, whether you are an actor, actress, whether you're a comedian, nowadays it's a little different than what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. You have to have a fan base already for anyone to even look at you.
Sure.
And if you can build a true fan base, then your chances of actually opening doors to major networks, to Capitol Records, to
we're gonna have to have you back on to talk about how to do that. So
definitely.
We want to thank you so much for being here, Mel. This has been really a lot of fun, eye-opening. Hopefully, we got some folks who took some notes on some of these self-empowerment tips, including writing down the affirmations and really connecting with them in so many different ways. So thank you, Mel. Big applause for Mel. Wish we had our applause meter going here. The couple behind is actually behind Sohaila is actually applauding. They're just very quiet.
Best studio audience I ever had.
Oh, right? Yeah. They don't get in the way. They don't sneeze or anything. It's amazing. Thank you, Mel. Have an awesome day. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
thanks, guys.
Bye.
Wow, so, she's amazing. She is amazing.
Unstoppable, right? And I love that she kept saying, this is really simple. But, the great thing about simple can be deep. Right. And simple can be very effective. And I, for one, will say that I can complicate things to the point that I bury myself before things actually start flowing. So simple can be the way to go.
Right. Love it. Now, I think we're going to tell the audience if they want to be entered to win one of her books to comment below, Be Unstoppable. So,
there we go. Take advantage of that because international bestseller, right? So something really powerful about that and be able to get that. So give us some comments in there. So our quote for today, are we ready?
Yes.
We're ready.
since we had so much fun, I decided that we should probably keep it with a fun person and their quote. So Mr. Steve Martin, who, who doesn't like Steve Martin, right? I mean, he's just so enjoyable. I love this. Be so good, they can't ignore you.
Oh,
There you go.
Simple.
Bam, I love it.
Laugh, but it's short. It's sweet. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Love
Be
it.
so good, they can't ignore you. So, I mean, I actually think I might even put that up just somewhere so that it reminds me of like, yeah, you know what? Go that extra mile. Do that extra little something, right? So that you can like stand out. Be so good, they can't ignore you.
Exactly.
that.
And be
Exactly.
amazing, right?
Rise to the occasion.
Tell yourself you're
Absolutely.
amazing. It's
Really
good.
So cool.
Simple, yeah.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
I think everybody should also know that we're about to sign out, but you know something? Join us next week, because if you have ever been accosted by somebody in network marketing, let's just be real, or if you have actually been enticed by the idea of network marketing as a side hustle or as a main hustle, you might want to know, well, when do I jump in and when do I run? Well, next week, our guest is actually going to be talking about how to be successful in network marketing, how to choose when to jump in. So join us next week for Tomas, what's his last name, Tammy?
Tidland.
Dylan. There you go. Join us for Tomas. He's going to be amazing. And we'll get a lot of those questions answered so you can actually build your side hustle with success. See you later. We're out.
Later. Bye.